The return they didn't expect. The long driveway stretched ahead of me, quiet, perfect, almost intimidating. Every hedge was trimmed with precision. Every stone placed with purpose. Everything about this house screamed one thing: status. I slowly drove forward, my old Toyota Camry humming softly against the silence. It didn't belong here. And that was exactly why I brought it. Luxury cars were already lined up outside the mansion. Bentleys, Porsches, a Ferrari shining under the evening light. And then, there was my car. Simple, unimpressive, noticeable, perfect. I parked right at the front. Let them see it. Let them wonder. Let them judge. I checked my reflection in the mirror. No diamonds. No designer labels. Just a plain black dress and calm eyes. The kind of calm that comes when you already know how the story ends. Miss Wilson. The security guard looked confused as I stepped out. Family reunion is in the main house. I know, I replied softly. He nodded, still unsure. Maybe wondering why someone like me would even be invited. I walked toward the entrance. Each step steady, controlled, familiar. Because this wasn't new. This was routine. Every year, the same thing. The same smiles. The same comparisons. The same quiet humiliation. The doors opened before I could knock. Jessica stood there. Perfect as always. Flawless makeup. Expensive dress. A smile that never reached her eyes. "Sarah," she said sweetly. "You made it." I smiled back. I did. Her eyes quickly moved past me, scanning the driveway. I could almost hear her thoughts. "Where's the real car?" "We arranged a private jet," she added casually. "You didn't respond." "I like driving," I said. "Gives me time to think." She laughed lightly. "Oh, you still have time for that?" I didn't answer. Some things aren't worth responding to. I walked past her into the house. Marble floors. Crystal lights. Everything shining, everything loud. The main hall was already full. Voices. Laughter. Wealth on display. Aunt Marie stood near the fireplace, covered in jewelry that sparkled louder than her personality. Uncle George was talking loudly about his latest yacht. And my cousins, comparing watches like it was a competition. Same scene. Different year. "Sarah." My mother's voice cut through the noise. "There you are, darling." She walked over smiling, but her eyes carried that familiar disappointment. "We saved you a seat," she said. I followed her gaze. A small table. In the corner. Far from everyone. The exile table. "Of course." I nodded. "Perfect." As I walked across the room, conversations slowly faded. People looked. Whispered. Judged. Just like always. "Still at that startup?" Aunt Marie's voice rang out loudly. "Perfect timing. Your cousin just made partner, and you're still..." She paused, searching for the right word. "Trying." Soft laughter spread across the room. I stopped, turned slightly, and smiled. Something like that. I reached my table and placed my bag down carefully. Then, I took out my laptop. Small, simple, unimpressive, just like they thought my life was. I walked toward the large screen on the wall. The one they used every year for family slideshows. Memories. Vacations. Achievements. Today, it would show something else. "Sarah." Jessica's voice carried curiosity now. "What are you doing?" I connected the laptop. The screen flickered to life. I said calmly, "It's time I shared something." A few people laughed, expecting a joke, a confession, maybe even an apology. But I just stood there, waiting, letting the room settle, letting their expectations build. 8 years ago, I began slowly. I left the family firm. Murmurs started. "Old topic. Old mistake. Worst decision of your life," Uncle George muttered. I ignored him. "I joined a small tech company." "That failed," someone whispered. I clicked the first slide. The screen changed. A headline appeared. "Quantum Tech Goes Public, $4.2 billion valuation." Silence. Instant. Heavy. I didn't rush. I let them read. Let them process. "My name is there," I continued quietly. "Founding member. Chief Strategy Officer." No one laughed this time. No one moved. But that's not the interesting part. I clicked again. Next slide. Numbers filled the screen. Clean. Clear. Unavoidable. "I invested my entire savings," I said. $250,000. A pause. "Today, that investment is worth over 40 million. Someone dropped a glass. No one reacted. They were too busy staring. Jessica stood up slightly. "That's not possible." I looked at her. "It is." Then I clicked again. More numbers. More assets. More proof. This is my portfolio. Real estate. Tech investments. Ownership stakes. Everything laid out. Nothing hidden. And recently, I added, I acquired controlling interest in Henderson Global. Uncle George froze. Completely. Because he knew exactly what that meant. He whispered. That's our biggest competitor. I nodded. Yes. The room felt smaller now. Tighter. Like the walls were closing in. But here's the part one find interesting, I said. My voice still calm. Still controlled. I clicked the final slide. A list appeared. Names. Familiar names. Family names. I kept records, I said. Of everyone I offered to invest 8 years ago. No one spoke. No one dared. And every single one of you. I looked around the room slowly. Said no. Silence. Pure. Uncomfortable. Powerful. I closed my laptop gently. The sound echoed louder than it should have. I guess, I said softly. I'm still working that small job. No one laughed. This time, they understood. When power changed sides, the silence didn't break. It stretched, heavy, uncomfortable. Like no one in that room knew how to breathe anymore. I picked up my laptop, calmly, like nothing unusual had just happened. Dinner should be ready, I said softly. And just like that, I walked toward the dining hall. No one stopped me. No one spoke. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one being watched with pity. I was being watched with something else. Uncertainty. The dining table was already set. Gold cutlery. Crystal glasses. Luxury in every detail. But tonight something had changed. My usual seat, the one in the corner, was gone. Instead, Sarah, Uncle George said quickly, pulling out a chair. Please sit here. Right next to him. Right next to my father. I paused for a moment, then sat down. Slowly. Gracefully. Without saying a word. Respect feels different when it's forced. The food was served. Expensive. Perfectly plated. Untouched. Because no one was here to eat anymore. They were here to understand. Or at least try to. Uncle George cleared his throat. That presentation, he said carefully. Very impressive. I nodded slightly. Thank you. He leaned closer. We should talk, he added. About potential collaboration. I took a small sip of water. Let the moment stretch. I don't think that would be appropriate, I said calmly. His smile faded. Why not? I met his eyes. Because of the investigation. Silence. What investigation? My mother asked quickly. I didn't look at her. I kept my eyes on him. The SEC review, I said. Your trading patterns raised some concerns. His face lost color. Completely. How do you? I sit on the board now, I interrupted softly. We see everything. No one moved. No one spoke. Jessica grabbed her phone, typing fast, searching, confirming. My father remained still, staring at his plate, like it might explain everything. But it couldn't, because the truth was simple. He had underestimated me. For years. The first course arrived. No one touched it. So, my cousin Patricia spoke carefully, trying to regain control. You must have a team managing all this. I smiled. No. She blinked. I built my own system. A pause. An algorithm. Now they were listening. Really listening. It identifies undervalued tech companies, I continued, and predicts growth patterns. Jessica slowly lowered her phone. Recognition hitting her face. Wait, she whispered. Mindspace. Nexus Analytics. I nodded. I invested early in both. More silence. Because they knew those names. Everyone did. Billion-dollar deals. Market-shifting companies. And 17 others, I added. My average return over the past 5 years. I paused. Then finished calmly. Over 300%. A glass slipped slightly in someone's hand. No one reacted. Because now, it wasn't shocking. It was overwhelming. But enough about me, I said. I turned toward Jessica. How's your role at the firm? She stiffened. It's good. Still managing legacy accounts? I asked. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Everyone knew. She hadn't earned her position. She had inherited it. I heard some clients are leaving, I added quietly. Her jaw tightened. We're restructuring. Of course, I said. Because results matter now. That one hit. Hard. My mother finally spoke. Sarah, maybe this isn't the right time for. It is, I said gently. I reached for my phone. Opened an email. I got a message this morning, I continued. From First National Bank. My father looked up instantly. That got his attention. They're considering pulling their funds, I said. Unless leadership changes. Silence dropped again, thicker than before. They're asking for someone, I added. With tech experience, innovation, real results. I didn't need to say more. The message was clear. Jessica leaned forward slightly. They offered you the position? I smiled faintly. Yes. Hope flashed in her eyes. And, she asked quickly. I declined. Relief. Instant. Visible. But it didn't last. Instead, I continued, I recommended they move their assets. A pause. To Henderson Global. That was the moment everything broke. My father's expression changed. Completely. Not confusion anymore. Not doubt. Realization. You're taking our clients, he said quietly. I met his gaze. I'm offering them something better. You're destroying us, Aunt Marie snapped. I turned to her. Calm. Steady. No, I said. I'm saving what can be saved. The table fell silent again. Because deep down, they knew I was right. I warned you, I continued. Years ago, I pulled up a document on my phone and slid it toward my father. His hands trembled as he read. An internal audit, I explained. From 8 years ago. His eyes moved quickly across the page. Every weakness. Every flaw. Every risk. Documented. Ignored. I tried to tell you, I said softly. But you didn't listen. No one defended him. No one could. Things have changed, I continued. The market doesn't care about names anymore. It cares about results. I leaned back slightly. Relaxed. In control. So here's what happens next. Every eye locked onto me. Tomorrow, I said, we launch a new tech division at Henderson Global. We'll offer your clients better returns, lower fees, real innovation. A pause. They'll have a choice. I looked around the table. Slowly. Carefully. And most of them. Another pause. We'll leave. No one argued. Because they knew. It was already happening. My phone buzzed softly. A message. Confirmation. I glanced at it. Then stood up. I should go, I said. Big day tomorrow. I reached into my bag and placed several envelopes on the table. What are these? My mother asked quietly. Opportunities, I replied. Private investments. The same kind they once rejected. Minimum entry is 5 million, I added. Then I turned toward Jessica. Oh, and there's a position open at Henderson. She looked up quickly. Senior role. I shook my head slightly. Entry level. A pause. Earn it this time. And with that, I walked away, leaving behind silence, shock, and something new, respect. 6 months later, the view from my office looked completely different. Not because the city had changed, but because my position in it had. 47 floors above the ground. Glass walls, open space, silence filled with purpose. This wasn't the old world. This was the new one. And I had built it. I stood near the window, watching the sunset stretch across the skyline. Calm. Focused. Unbothered. A soft knock pulled me back. Come in. Marcus stepped inside, tablet in hand. The quarterly numbers are in. I turned, taking it from him. One glance was enough. Assets up. Client growth rising. Returns outperforming the market. Again. A small smile formed. Consistent. Predictable. Controlled. And Wilson Investment? I asked. Marcus didn't hesitate. Down 60%. Of course. They've lost most of their major clients, he added. I nodded slowly. No surprise. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was outcome. Your father called again, Marcus said. I exhaled lightly. He always does when it's too late. My phone buzzed on the desk. Jessica, can we talk? I stared at the message for a second, then locked the screen. 6 months ago, she would never have asked. She would have assumed. Expected. Now, she was learning. Your interview is here, Marcus said. Forbes. Right on time. I walked into the conference room. Bright lights. City view behind me. And across the table. Emma Parker. Sharp eyes. Focused energy. Quite a journey, she said, turning on her recorder. From being ignored to leading one of the fastest growing firms in finance. I smiled slightly. Depends on how you define ignored. She leaned forward. Tell me how it started. I paused for a moment. Then said, with a family reunion. 2 hours later, the interview ended. But one question stayed. Your father's company is struggling, she had said. There are rumors you might acquire it. I didn't answer then. Because some things are better done than said. That evening, another visitor arrived. Uncle George. He looked different. Smaller. Less certain. The confidence was gone, replaced by something unfamiliar. Humility. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't look up from my screen. "I'm listening." "The board is considering options," he continued. "A merger maybe." I leaned back slowly, finally looking at him. I corrected. Past tense. He swallowed. Hard. "What do you want?" he asked. Straight to the point now. "Good." I stood up, walked closer. "This was never about what I want," I said quietly. "It was about what you refused to see." A pause. "Value doesn't come from a last name." He lowered his eyes. "We were wrong." I studied him for a moment, then stepped back. "When I'm ready," I said, "you'll hear from my legal team. Clear. Final. Controlled." He nodded and left. A few days later, I walked into a building I hadn't entered in years. Wilson Investment Group. Nothing had changed. And that was the problem. Same walls. Same energy. Same outdated thinking. Inside the conference room, the entire board was waiting, including my father. The papers were already on the table. He looked at me quietly. "You didn't have to do it like this," he said. "We could have kept it in the family." I sat down, picked up the pen. "That's exactly why I had to," I replied. The room went silent. "The old way is over," I continued. "Now we build something better." I signed the documents. Smooth. Clean. Final. 8 years. Of silence. Of patience. Of being underestimated. All leading to this moment. Wilson Investment Group was no more. Absorbed. Restructured. Rebuilt. "What happens now?" my father asked. I stood up. Looked at him. "Now." A small pause. "Now you adapt." Another pause. "Or you get left behind." I turned and walked out. This time, not as someone leaving, but as someone who owned the outcome. The next morning, a new announcement went live. Quantum Financial Partners. A new name. A new identity. A new future. The teams gathered. Old and new. Different worlds, now one. Jessica sat among them. Not at the top. Not special. Just present. Learning. Earning. Growing. And for the first time, that was enough. That evening, I packed the last box in my office. As I closed the drawer, I found an old photo. Family reunion. Smiles. Luxury. Illusions. I looked at it for a moment, then placed it back. Some things belong in the past. My phone buzzed. Q1 projections exceeded. Stock rising. I smiled slightly, then looked out at the city. Lights everywhere. Buildings. Opportunities. Power. All within reach. All earned. Because in the end, this was never about proving them wrong. It was about building something so strong, so undeniable, that they had no choice but to see it. Too late. 6 months later, everything had changed. The company, the market, the family, and me. I was just getting started. Because the truth is, the most powerful people in the room aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones who stay quiet and build anyway.